Greetings, fellow bird enthusiasts, bird photographers, spotting scope enthusiasts. My name is Sweeney. I am here today with quite a beast of a thing up on my shoulder. This is the SA401 spotting scope from a company called Svbony. And if you're wondering why I'm holding my hand like this, I'm basically cupping the microphone which is attached to me because it's started to get very windy now again. And I'm beginning to wonder if I picked the wrong day to make a YouTube video. But you know what, I'm here now and I have the scope with me, so I might as well try it out.
The scope comes packaged in a nicely branded cool white box. Inside the box you'll see that it includes protective neoprene sleeves, the body of the scope itself, an info booklet and an eyepiece which is 20x75 magnification. Both the scope itself and the eyepiece have rubber cups fitted, which are held on with a little rubber ring, but they can easily be removed. Now it's time to try out the SA401 for some good old long distance birding.
Okay, in the distance we have some bar-tailed godwits. My God, there's so many of them. White birds like seagulls, especially when they're in the water or against a dark background, it's always a good way of testing if the scope has some chromatic aberration. You know, fringing on the edges, purple and green fringing. And I do think that this scope is fairly clean. Now, the first thing I noticed when I took this scope out, and it's not a positive thing unfortunately, the field of view seems to be much tighter than I thought. Now, as you zoom in to the longer range, the field of view becomes very, very wide. So it's a very wide field of view at 100, but not so wide at 25. So that's a little bit of a pity because you'll notice that if you're birding, generally speaking, you'll be at the sort of wider end. Now, it all depends. If you have something very far away, you're going to want to spot it in and use as much power in the scope as you can. Now, it does hold focus perfectly there as you pull down. So I can see those gulls in the water there now nice and crisply. Common gulls, herring gulls, black-headed gulls, and with zero fringing. Nice clean white edges, that's very good. So yeah, look, it's got a nice image, just a little bit disappointed in the field of view at the wider end. That's all. Everything else is pretty good. Normally with this scope that's got a big range like that, a big strong zoom, you know, 75x zoom, generally speaking, you'll find yourself kind of not liking it at that length. But with the big 100mm front element and the crispy optics, I think that you can use this comfortably at that range. And in the distance there, I can really pick out stuff. It's really great. Contrast will die off at that range. I mean, you're not going to have the same crispy, contrasty image. But the field of view is pretty big and the image is clear, free of chromatic aberration, fringing, whatever you want to call it. So I'm liking what I see so far. Svbony, I hope I'm saying that right. They included a few extra little bits for me to try out with the scope. One of them is a Wi-Fi camera. I don't know much about Wi-Fi cameras for scopes, but it's in here somewhere. That's it. They also have this device, which I think will mount your mobile phone on the scope. Very interesting. So I'm going to try those out now. And hopefully then I'll be able to show you what I see through the scope. Okay.
Okay, let's try this. The SA401 Wi-Fi camera only costs $70. So should I hold my breath in anticipation of how good this could be?
Wet lens. We now don't have magnification, do we? Why is everything... Oh my God, it's upside down. Oh boy. That actually is convenient if you do want to level the shot. You can just turn the thing here. So right, we have a few bar-tailed godwits there. But now I got to focus on them. Oh boy, that roll and shutter is pretty bad. And the wind is vibrating there as well. So obviously you'd want very calm conditions. Let's go further away to where the houses are in the background. God, what magnification am I at? I have a feeling that the sensor on this Wi-Fi camera is so small that it's making the magnification about 200. Oh boy. What the hell is that, a house? This Wi-Fi camera does not do justice to the image that you will see. Okay, so there's a castle in the distance. Not a castle, but look at that rolling shutter. There's a tower type thing. So that's about a mile, 2 miles at least away. Now the last time Svbony sent me adapters for their scopes, there was just no real way of fitting it on tightly for the phone. And this one, when I got it, I said, lovely, this is going to screw on nice and tight. It's going to be very intact, a very easy thing to use. And here we go. And there's 3 little screws here that I have them fully in, but they don't do anything. They don't tighten it, so it's just left there like that. Maybe you're missing parts. I don't think you are, actually. The mind boggles, it really does.
There's quite a few adapters and rings on the accessories page of the Svbony website. Hopefully I can wrangle an adapter that will stop the camera falling out if I move the scope.
So let's try and get a photo of a bird with this attachment. Those birds are a long way away. There's a curlew feeding. Because it's so long away, the image is kind of blurry 1 second and then crisp the next. Photo! Don't move! Don't move! Takes a couple of seconds to take a photo. Let's go back to video mode. What's going on? Ah, disconnected. Let's see, is there anything? That's a juvenile herring gull. It's disconnected again, so I have to reconnect again if I want to go back to video mode. And this is basic stuff. Video mode. Alright, so Svbony, will you do some work on your app? Do some work on your Wi-Fi camera. Try and get it to connect so that it's not like this. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
This is the SV214 Pro phone adapter from Svbony, a 3-axis universal clamp. It's a fairly basic piece of engineering by the looks of it, and it just clamps onto the eyepiece. Let me warn you in advance that I haven't much experience in this field.
So I've got the phone working finally, and it's recording. Thank God for the Blackmagic app. I think the Blackmagic app is doing a great job here. Now it's obviously a circular image, you can crop in. So now I've got the bar-tailed godwits in sight. It's very shaky with the wind. So if I turn the zoom, I'm turning the whole phone. Okay, didn't want that. So now I need to come back out, I think. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it'll probably work better at a longer zoom range. Just make sure my focus is better. This seems to work better than the actual Wi-Fi camera. At least you don't get that horrendously bad rolling shutter. So there we go. So let's see what the houses look like in the distance. With the Blackmagic app, you can set your, shutter speed, ISO, white balance. Very nice. Pity it doesn't actually do photography in the Blackmagic app. It would be nice to do raw stills, wouldn't it? Can it do raw stills? So the castle looks a lot better now. Let's go right in. So I need to switch off autofocus as well, I think. So let's have a look from front to back on the SA401 scope from Svbony. First up at the very front, you have that massive 100mm front element, a big chunk of glass right out there. And it has a nice smooth little hood here, which you can extend. Pull it out like that if you're facing, bright lights and you want to sort of avoid flaring, which you'll get off the sun. If you are pointing it towards the sun, be careful. Never let kids use these or even binoculars near the sun as well. Very bad idea. So it tapers down from a fairly big chunky front end into the narrower section here where you have the actual focus. It's got a single dial here, nice and big and chunky, very, very easy to turn, but at the same time it's stiff enough that when you leave it, it's not going to move easily on you, and you want that really. So how is it for fine focus increments, which is very important? It's perfect for that. Maybe not as buttery smooth or velvety as other focus systems I've used, but I think it's absolutely fine and I quite like the focus on it. So the eyepiece is nice and chunky. It's a little bit like an eyepiece that you get on a bigger Pro Zoom. Of course, it has the little cup here that pulls out should you, you know, if you're wearing glasses or whatever, it's going to make it a little bit easier for you. On the eyepiece then you can change from 25 right up to your 75 mil. So this is like a huge range. So if I unclip it here, it's got a built-in Manfrotto plate on it here, and it has 3 screws on the bottom as well, should you want to, you know, fit your own plate like an Arca Swiss or maybe a longer plate. The foot isn't removable as well. It's just, you know, part of the scope, and you cannot actually take it off. I would prefer if they had a different system in which you could just bolt on your own plate. Another thing I noticed as well, you know, if you were out walking with the scope and you wanted to carry it like that, I do that with a lot of my lenses, you can't actually get your fingers in underneath it. So even though it's designed to be kept compact, which is a good thing, it would be nice if you actually could, you know, carry it like that. Make it a little bit easier if you were carrying this in one hand and the tripod in the other hand. So this is a big beefy scope. It is heavy, it's a couple of kilos, and it's not the type of thing that you're going to have with you on a backpack doing long hikes. Even carrying it on the tripod on your shoulder, you know, you can get fairly far, but it's a heavy scope. It's not light. It's the type of scope that you'll have with you in the car, you know, when you want long range birding, but you're not traveling that far to your spot. So yeah, it's a beast of a thing. So that's just my thoughts on it. But I think overall, it looks quite nice. There's a good finish on it. And for the money, I don't think you're going to be that disappointed. I think it delivers good quality. So I'm used to birding out here in this area, and it's a sort of what I describe as low contrast area. There's a lot of sort of growth and it's quite flat. So there's not much to show you in terms of interesting views. Maybe the odd hen harrier might pop its head up, but other than that, it's not really an inspiring view. But I can say that from experience, you know, scoping and birding out here, I'm getting nice results with this. So I'm just checking some of the posts here for perhaps a raptor of some sort. Maybe even the odd peregrine falcon if you're lucky. But today it is just pretty quiet. So when I last checked Amazon, the SA401 scope from Svbony had a price tag of about $900, I think. I'll put the current price up on the screen. So for that money, I think this is quite good value considering the price of the, you know, the pro level scopes like from Svbony and these different brands, Nikon and Zeiss. I forget some of the other brands, but you know, a lot of those scopes are in the 2,500, 3,000 to 5,000 range. So basically this coming in sub €1,000 for a 75x scope with a 100mm front element on there. I think that's very good value for money. So if you're into birding and you want to spot stuff, and not even birding, just any type of spotting, you know, you might have a cool downtown apartment with a view of the beach or something. You might want to get yourself one of these. Perfect for that. You know, it's nice for the moon and even some of the planets as well. Maybe not the best celestial telescope that you'll get. Obviously those have bigger magnifications, but I think this is going to be good fun for that. Yeah, it's a beast of a thing. It weighs a lot. Not the type of scope that you're going to bring with you, you know, as you trek the land in search for rare species. I think you're as well off just get something more compact for that. But if you're like me and you like to pull up in the car and spend, you know, 2 or 3 hours scoping out some of these wilder open expanses like where I'm at today with the big quagmire of marshland, where you want to spot some rare birds that are a long way off, just lift this out of the back of the car, throw it in front of you, and Bob's your uncle, you're away in a jiffy with a great 75x optical zoom, which is fantastic. I like the quality of it. I'm glad they sent it to me, and I'm not going to even think about getting another scope. This is more than good enough for me. And in fact, this thing has been in my boot since day one, since 2020 when I got it. This is actually the SV46, and I did a review of this scope a few years ago, and I've literally, look, I have not taken care of this. It was a cheap scope. Svbony sent it to me. One of the zoom rings came loose here, I have a bit of tape in it. I have just literally thrown this in the car, and this is one that I bring with me if I'm hiking and I just want to strap it to the bag and if I want to spot some rarities. So yeah, look, I'm going to hold on to this for the rough stuff and keep this for the good stuff. So I will say that the SA401 here has had, you know, it has much better optics than this one.
So that's all from me on the SA401 spot and scope, folks. Thanks for watching the video, and I do hope you got something out of it. A thumbs up on the video is always appreciated, and if you want to leave a comment, I will get back to you. Until the next video, folks, that's all from me. See ya.